French economic players, businesses, households and the government trade among themselves, but also with foreign countries. They are called residents when they live in France and non-residents when they live abroad. A car manufacturer located on a production site in France exports cars abroad. This manufacturer wants to manufacture a new line of cars. To do so, it decides to import machine tools from abroad for its factory in France. With these imported machine tools, it manufactures a new type of car, which it may then export abroad. However, its employees need to be trained to use and maintain these machine tools. The seller of machine tools abroad therefore also sends a few technicians to train the employees. This is an import of services by the car manufacturer based in France. These are not the only transactions between France and the rest of the world, far from it. These days, external trade is playing an increasingly important role, and ways of producing goods and services and selling them abroad are changing. For example, instead of producing cars in France and exporting them, our car manufacturer may decide to build a factory on the spot, which will directly sell cars in this country. This is a direct investment abroad. In return, part of the profits made by the subsidiary will be sent back to France. In order to finance the construction of its factory abroad, the car manufacturer may decide to take out a loan with a bank located in that same country. This car factory will itself use in its production process components manufactured in France, such as tyres. It is not only companies and banks that are involved in international trade. Every year, a large number of tourists come to France and spend money in hotels and restaurants, for example. This represents an export of services for the French economy. Other people move around, but on a more regular basis, cross-border workers. The wages that they earn in France's neighbouring countries represent a receipt. But this is not all. With the opening of international financial markets, the flows of money between non-residents and French residents have taken on a new dimension. Many French households have invested part of their savings in financial products managed by their bank. The bank may invest part of the sums collected in foreign assets, such as shares in non-resident companies. The bank earns income on these investments, which it then uses to pay the households that have invested in the financial products. All of these transactions between French residents and non-residents are recorded in a statistical document, the balance of payments, which exists in all countries in the same format. The blue arrows represent the flows on the current account of the balance of payments, that is, exchanges of goods, services and income. The outgoing arrows represent France's revenues and the incoming arrows represent its expenses. The green arrows represent the flows on the financial account. When revenues exceed expenses in the current account, a country is said to have a surplus. This current account surplus can be used to invest in other countries. Conversely, when a country's expenses exceed its revenues, it is said to have a current account deficit. This deficit needs to be funded either through borrowing or through the sale of assets to non-residents. A chronic current account deficit, particularly in the goods and services account, can reflect a lack of competitiveness. This happens when a country's manufacturers and service providers struggle to compete with their foreign counterparts. If a country is not competitive enough, it might repeatedly run up large current account deficits, gradually increasing its debt vis-à-vis the rest of the world. If it becomes too high, its financial position will become fragile, which can in turn make non-residents less willing to invest. In extreme cases, the country is no longer able to finance its current account deficit. It then needs to generate a surplus as quickly as possible, raising the risk of a sharp adjustment in production and employment. This is why, in the European Union, the supervision and prevention of macroeconomic imbalances have been reinforced. The most important thing for this is to produce high-quality statistics. In France, the Banque de France is in charge of drawing up the balance of payments. It does this by surveying the economic players in France. The balance of payments data produced by the Banque de France are very useful to citizens, policymakers and researchers for understanding how France fits into the global economy and analysing the balances and imbalances of its external trade. For more information, please visit the Banque de France website.